We have seen some great adoption of Bitcoin DeFi applications on ICP lately, with both the number of Bitcoin transactions executed by ICP smart contracts, it's skyrocketing, and also the amount of Bitcoin turned into ckBTC is at an all-time high. So how does all this work? I mean, Bitcoin and ICP are both L1 blockchains, and still ICP is emerging as one of the most capable Bitcoin scaling platforms out there. You could say that in many ways it functions as a Bitcoin layer 2. It sort of extends Bitcoin's capabilities without having to bridge, and enables apps to settle transactions directly on the Bitcoin blockchain. And this allows apps to preserve the core Bitcoin value, so to say. And in this video, I will show you 3 distinct patterns for building Bitcoin DeFi applications on ICP, both custodial patterns and non-custodial builder patterns. And we will explore how these patterns unlock Bitcoin liquidity through features like partially signed Bitcoin transactions. So let's dive in, and to give you some context, we will start by having a look at how the ICP Bitcoin integration works. I mean, from a high level. Okay, so here we have really the bird's eye view of the ICP Bitcoin integration. We have some user here that wants to interact with an ICP smart contract, and then of course we have the Bitcoin network. And to connect all this, we have some other components. ICP supports something that is called threshold signatures, and that is a mechanism that allows the nodes of an ICP subnet to jointly sign transactions or arbitrary pieces of data together in a decentralized process. Every smart contract on the ICP has their own ECDSA key, or can produce a signature based on that key for some data. And as you may know, the key cryptographic primitives used by Bitcoin is the ECDSA signatures, as well as Schnorr signatures for the newer Bitcoin transaction types. The second key component is the Bitcoin API. It sort of sits on the border between ICP and the outside world. The nodes in an ICP subnet fetches the latest blocks from Bitcoin and makes the information available to smart contracts on the inside, on ICP. They don't make the full blocks available, but they make the full UTXO set available. So a smart contract on ICP can always have up-to-date information as to the amount of Bitcoin held by a certain address, for instance. And what the Bitcoin API also does is that it routes signed payloads from the ICP onto the Bitcoin network. So the flow is, if you want to create a Bitcoin transaction on ICP, the flow is like this. The user interacts with the smart contract. The smart contract creates a Bitcoin transaction payload and requests that payload to be signed using either the ECDSA signature scheme or the Schnorr signature scheme. After that, it sends it to the Bitcoin API that relays the transaction onto the Bitcoin network. So this is the core functionality of ICP that allows a smart contract running on another L1 to hold and control value, to create transactions directly on Bitcoin. I mentioned that we will be looking at 3 ways of interacting with Bitcoin from the ICP, because ICP offers a fair amount of flexibility there. So first out is the partially signed Bitcoin transactions, which really upholds the core values of the Bitcoin network. And then we can delegate Bitcoin to smart contracts on the ICP. And finally, we can create wrapped representations of Bitcoin to work with on the ICP. Let's start by looking at partially signed Bitcoin transactions. So this is a non-custodial solution where you never hand over full ownership and control over your assets to some external entity, in our case the ICP smart contract. Instead, this diagram is meant to illustrate a scenario where you have a lender and a borrower. So both the lender and the borrower will deposit liquidity and lock collateral using a partially signed Bitcoin transactions, where they sort of say that I am willing to release my liquidity and I'm willing to borrow these tokens if certain parameters or certain rules are met, and it's up to the ICP smart contract to co-sign these partially signed transactions if it finds a match. So in this case, we use ICP as a sort of a matching engine and as a co-signer. So this is something that is being used successfully by the Liquidium project, that allows you to lend against your runes, for instance, or borrow against runes, and also the Omnity created Rich Swap, which is a swapping platform that allows you to swap runes, for instance. This setup is often combined with a multi-sig transaction. So that means that even if the ICP smart contract would go away tomorrow, or the ICP would go down, you have still baked into this initial setup, you have the possibility of creating a signature for this pre-created multi-sig transaction, and you can always get your locked funds back independently of what goes on ICP. The second way of doing Bitcoin DeFi on ICP is using delegated wallets, and that you can say that represents sort of a decentralized custodial solution, and that in essence it means that you you as a user, you will transfer some Bitcoin to an address controlled by an ICP smart contract. You will give that smart contract full custody, the access over your Bitcoin in this case, and this address that you transfer to can either be like a user address that belongs just to you, but is managed by the smart contract, or it can be some kind of pool address that manages funds for many users. So the general flow here for these kinds of applications is quite often it's a flow that you are quite used to from the regular world, where you take your funds from your bank or whatever, you transfer them elsewhere. So you deposit your funds to a place, and then you do the thing, you trade your stock, or you trade your tokens or whatever, and once you're done, you withdraw. So deposit and then do thing, and then you withdraw your tokens again. And some projects that are successfully using this on ICP is Oicy. It's a wallet that supports not only Bitcoin, but also Ethereum and Solana. So it's a sort of a decentralized custodial wallet on the ICP. And Odin.fun that allows you to both create runes and trade runes on their platform. The third way of working with Bitcoin DeFi on ICP that I will be covering in this video is chain key tokens. And chain key tokens is sort of an extension of the previous slide, or the previous use case, where you have it's a custodial mechanism, you could say. It is a wrapped or a bridged token, essentially. So the initial phase here is mostly the same. You as a user, you transfer some Bitcoin to a smart contract on the ICP. In this case, it's the ckBTC minter. So ckBTC means chain key Bitcoin, and that is the name of this wrapped token. But instead of your tokens being custodied by a single application, this ICP smart contract instead mints you a token following the ICRC standard that is defined by ICP. It mints you an ICP native token and sends that back to your wallet or to another smart contract that manages a custodial wallet for you. And this have some additional benefits, right? Because in the previous example, your tokens were held by one application, so to say. So you cannot use them in the wider DeFi ecosystem on ICP. But using chain key tokens, then of course you create this ICP native representation of Bitcoin. And once you have done so, then you are free to transfer that token back to other wallets. You can use it with other DeFi applications, and you can enjoy a number of benefits that comes with transacting directly on ICP, such as super fast finality and low fees, etc. While at the same time knowing that this token is fully backed by Bitcoin, and there are like no centralized bridges of any kind. One project on ICP that works with these ICRC tokens is a Kong swap that allows you to swap ckBTC for ck ETH or any of the other the large number of ck tokens and ICRC tokens that are available on ICP. We are approaching the end of this short video, but before you go, I wanted to show you something else that we have been working on and just recently announced, and that is Bitcoin DeFi.dev. So Bitcoin DeFi.dev is a web page, is a learning hub and a resource that goes more into depth about all these things that we talked about. Let me just briefly show you. So this is the Bitcoin DeFi.dev web page. It starts out with a landing page that shows you from a really high level, the various things that go into Bitcoin DeFi. Let's not linger too long on that page. But the meat of the thing, the core of this is the documentation section. So here in the documentation section, it describes again this high-level overview on how the Bitcoin integration works. It talks about application backends and frontends and HTTP gateways, as well as the Bitcoin API. And it also has a section on smart contract capabilities, sort of translating Bitcoin lingo into ICP speak. If you want to create ordinals, for instance, how starting from a Bitcoin perspective, how does that work on ICP, or how do you actually interact with the Bitcoin blockchain, or accessing a Bitcoin price feed, or authenticating using familiar Bitcoin wallets, which is a super interesting way to build Bitcoin DeFi applications on ICP. We'll not cover that in this video. And then we have some case studies looking closer at some projects such as Odin.fun, Liquidium, and Omnity, with sort of architecture diagrams detailing how they have set up their smart contracts and so on. We have some information on how to set up your local development environment, and etc. The website also features some examples on how to build smart contracts on the ICP. You can build smart contracts using Rust. You can build it using Motoko, the ICP-specific language. You can build using Python. You can build TypeScript. Basically, anything that compiles to WebAssembly you can use on ICP. So yeah, examples. This website doesn't go too much into detail, so it's quite a bit of teaser website that links onwards to other more elaborate examples. But this shows you how to use the Bitcoin API from the Rust CDK, the canister development kit, and shows you how to create an address, for instance, and also links onward to these more elaborate examples of building wallets and working with ordinals and runes and etc. I think this is a good place to stop. I hope this video made you interested in digging deeper and learning more about Bitcoin DeFi on ICP, and perhaps get started to build some exciting DeFi application. Good luck and see ya.